What is going on, YouTube? Got another video for you. It's Carter with Edged Mindset, formerly known as Juju13, formerly also possibly known as the Glove Man. Yeah, real quick video on this one, I promise. I just wanted to touch on a vague concept that I'm going to ramble through in my head, and that is the concept of knife hype and what that means and how that can send you to the poorhouse and how you can maybe try to combat it or something. I don't have the best examples. This one is. I mean, this is what made me think of it. I wish I had an Evo 3. I sold my Evo 3. I wish I had an Evo 3 because this and the Evo 3 are kind of the whole thing that really kind of put this idea in my head. So in the knife world, it's somewhat like the stock market, right? Like you have new stocks, new knives, new companies coming in. You have established ones that are kind of tried and true, like the Strider here, that are more stable in terms of value. But then you have like little hype trains that pop up that everybody jumps on, just like the little tech companies that pop up and offer their IPOs and everybody wants it and then all of a sudden they don't want it. And so it can be difficult to navigate, and nobody wants to be in the situation where they pay $900 for like an Evo 3 and then 6 months later, like people can't give them away. I'm not saying that's the case with the Evo 3. It's got a few things going for it that hopefully will prevent it from being that bad. But you also have to somewhat be smart and really distill down what you're looking at. So let's pretend that this Solo, because that's what I have here, Direware Solo here. Check out my videos on this. I'm sorry it's really long and rambly. Let's pretend this is an Evo 3. Pretend. Use your imagination. Go back to when you were a kid. You'd imagine things. Pretend this is an Evo 3 and pretend it's roughly valued at, let's say it's the DLC. It's $800 right now. Let's say that. DLC, $800. And then this is the Steelcraft Field Marshal by Todd Begg. So we're just imagining here. So imagine this one. You don't have to imagine this one. This one's true. Imagine this one. This retailed when it first came out with the Damascus blade. I think it was quite a lot. I think it was like $700, $800, something like that. When this first came out, really nice knife, made by Riot, has all the features everybody loves. Ceramic ball pocket clip, not everybody loves that, but I think it's cool. Lock bar insert, it has the Damascus blade by what's his nuts? Oh gosh, the guy that does all the cool Damascus. I brain fart. But anyways, real Damascus from a U.S. made, like respectable Damascus, right? We're not talking Pakistani pot metal Damascus here or random unknown origin Damascus, like legit Damascus, full titanium, anodized, really beautiful knife, which is why I've not even contemplated selling this. It's just gorgeous. And then we have the Evo 3, right? Imagination. Imagine, DLC, full titanium handle, bearings. This also has bearings, lock bar insert, all the same stuff. No Damascus though. And yet still, $800. Both of these are Chinese produced. Both of these are made in China. This one filters through a Russian company who pretends it's made in Russia. It's really made in China, and either they're putting them together or just rebranding them and skimming money off the top. Both Chinese-produced knives, and yet this one, Cascade, I paid $360 for this on the second-hand market, brand new. $360. All things considered, pretending this is an Evo 3, I mean, these things are comparable. They should be roughly the same. But because the Evo has kind of the hype train and the way they've done their releases, and it's just newer, like Todd Begg just isn't really super hot right now, even though, in my opinion, a lot of his knives are fairly timeless, like this one. I think this is a really strong knife design. Might be a little busy for some people, especially with that Damascus, but really well done. High quality knife. And yet, it's not worth anything. Luckily I didn't pay retail on it and then take the huge dive. In fact, now they're even less. Like, I've seen these go for like $325, like next to nothing with the Damascus blade. It's crazy. Like, nobody wants them. Nobody freaking wants them. Beautiful knife. One of my favorites, really. Nobody wants this thing. Flips like a dream. Nobody wants it. The Evo 3, you can't, oh my gosh, it's crazy. It's craziness. Everybody freaking wants them. Now, the Evo 3 may or may not hold that value. I don't know. It's tough to say. It'll probably dwindle. I think as they continue to do releases over the next couple of years, I think it's going to dwindle. They are limited, but so is this. It's not like they're pumping these out still. I think they're pretty much done with this run, but just nobody cares, right? So That's the thing. It's a complex thing when you're looking at value and hype. There's so many pieces involved. It's how fresh is it? How much energy is behind it? You know, do people think it's the cool new thing? How limited is it? But any one of those things doesn't necessarily guarantee value, and it doesn't guarantee it's going to hold that value. This is limited too, but just nobody wants it, right? And even me, who's been in this game for so long and kind of looks at these things, I will still sometimes be kind of taken aback when I go to sell something and it's like crickets. You know, nobody freaking wants it. They're just like, no, I wouldn't take it if you gave it to me. It's like, what? For example, this Heretic Knives custom here, the ROC custom with the abalone inlays and the DLC Damascus. I mean, you know, and it's all relative, right? Like, this retailed for like $1,600 or something. I can't sell it for $8. Nobody wants it. Nobody cares. I don't even know how low it would have to go for somebody to be like, okay, I'll take it. Nobody wants it. But then other knives drop, and oh my gosh, it's going for triple value. So that kind of comes into Striders. So Striders are cool because they hold their value probably more consistently than a lot of brands. They still have their little hype swings, right? When there's a new release, it's always going to fly off the shelves more. It's always going to get more retail. And then it'll kind of hit a lull where it kind of simmers down. And then if you flash forward years and years later, and it's now an old thing that came out, people want it again, and it may even have more value than when it was kind of hyped up and first came out. But sometimes they don't. You know, it kind of depends. So this is, we call this the Battleship finish. It's named after some camo that was used on U.S. battleships, similar to this, the triangle thing. I think it's used in a few different things. It was a finish they did, I think a couple years ago. It came out on a bunch of different knives. This is kind of more of just a production version of it. You know, this still has a good amount of value. Like, people still like it, but it definitely didn't maintain its hype status, right? And I think it's just it's a little too flashy and it's a little too angular for what a lot of people look for in Striders, but it's also kind of unique. So that's kind of a cool example of something that was super hyped up, you know, when it first came out, and then it kind of simmered down. It kind of stayed fairly simmered. Hasn't gone down in value though. Like, this is still worth more than what retail was. Not more than what I paid for it, but more than what the original retail was. And that's what you'll find in a lot of Striders is, generally speaking, unless it's really a plain Jane release, you're gonna make your money back on them if you buy them retail. And so this is kind of going into another video. I don't want to go into that. What was the point of this? We're talking about hype, knife hype. Be aware of it. Be conscious of it. It's fun to get into, and it's fun to hype up on knives. Just be aware of what you're doing. That's the only thing. You know, I've done it before. I've knowingly jumped on hype and paid more for stuff, and then I knew, like, oh, if I go to sell this, I'm going to regret it. But of course, I'm like, oh, I'm never going to sell it. And then 2 months later, I'm like, I'm going to sell this. And it happens, you know, and it is what it is. But the more prepared you are for it, the more you understand it, the less it's going to kind of rock your socks. But like I said, I still run into instances where even I'm blown away with, like, something is all the rage, and then you flash forward a couple months, nobody wants anything to do with it. So, all right, guys, that's it. Knife hype. Watch out for it. Buy accordingly. Buy responsibly. I'm going to do a video on kind of buying expensive knives and why I think it's different than what some people think, or you just kind of think about it in a different way, and it kind of fits into what I just talked about. But I'll do that in a separate video because I don't think it makes sense to do it in this one. All right, guys, see ya.